Hey everybody, welcome back to Living Traditions Homestead. Today Kevin and I want to talk with you about why we find it so important to buy in bulk. There are reasons that I like to buy in bulk, there are reasons that Kevin liked for us to buy in bulk, and we just wanted an opportunity to talk with you about that today and also show you some of the equipment we have on the homestead that helps us out with the bulk items that we purchase. One of the main reasons why I like to buy in bulk is because of cost savings. There are a lot of things that I can buy 25 pounds of that when I compare them pound for pound what I can buy in the store, there's a huge cost savings. Plus, it's really one of the main ways that we can keep the cost of organic food down and affordable. Examples of things that we buy 25 pounds of at a time that I really enjoy are wheat berries, dry corn, rice, beans, split peas, lentils, oats, barley, lots of things on the homestead that we buy, generally 25 pounds at a time, because 25 pounds of those will normally fit in a 5-gallon bucket, a food grade bucket. If you would compare buying organic whole wheat flour at the store to what you can mill or grind up at your home, if you get the wheat berries, buying wheat berries in bulk is way cheaper. So let me give you a price comparison. These wheat berries, they are soft white wheat berries. I can get these in bulk for about 68 cents a pound. But whole wheat organic ground flour is about $1.50, $1.75 a pound. So I save a ton of money by buying them in bulk. Now I love also to buy whole dry corn in bulk. It's really hard for me to find organic dry corn, and I like it because it makes the most amazing cornbread, and we really like cornbread. So we buy the dry corn in bulk, we grind it up, and I use it for my cornbread. It's fantastic. Now, when you buy cornmeal from the grocery store, if you can find organic cornmeal, it's something that we can't even find out here in our area. But when you buy cornmeal from the store, they have extracted the corn oil from it. Grinding it yourself, you still have those oils in it, which makes the flavor fantastic. It's also very cost effective to buy in bulk. Also, there's a benefit in shelf life. When you buy flours and things that are already ground up, their shelf life is a lot less than if you buy it in a whole grain. A lot of these whole grains, if they're stored appropriately, will be fine for up to 25 years. And that's pretty crazy.
And that leads me to the reason that I really like buying things in bulk. It's because I like having the security of having the food in the house. Whether you're planning for something big, like a big government meltdown, or you're just planning for a snowstorm that might keep you at home for a week, knowing that you have things in the house that are there and able to be made into food is a very reassuring thing to have. It's something that, can just help you sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that even if you can't make it to town, you can't make it to the store, your own shelves are stocked, and even if the store shelves are empty, your own shelves are stocked. It just makes it, a lot better for your family to know you have that security right at home.
Now, I've talked about this a lot in other videos, especially kitchen videos, that we really like to buy bulk products, organic products from a company called Azure Standard. A lot of people are having a hard time finding bulk grains, bulk beans and rice.
Especially organic.
Absolutely. So if you're interested, look in the description below. We'll have a link to Azure Standard. It's a great buying company, great organic products for a good price. But the other thing that we wanted to talk with today is what we do with these grains at home as far as grinding them up. We've had questions in past videos about how do we grind our grain, what grain mills do we like, and we actually have 3 of them, 3 different types on the homestead, so we wanted to talk with you about them, show you how they work, and then ultimately what our recommendation is.
So like Sarah said, we have 3 different types of grain mills here on the homestead. I think the first 2 that I'm going to show you I bought at garage sales a long time ago. We don't use them very often, but I still keep them around, and I like them for different reasons. So we're going to go over those and just show you kind of the benefits to having those. I suggest that a lot of this type of equipment you watch for at garage sales, auctions, estate sales, things where you can get really good buys on things and then just store it. You may use it once every 10 years, but if you have a barn or a pantry or somewhere where you can store things, just keep them on hand because you never know when you're going to need them. Now the last one that we're going to show you is the one that we use all the time, and it's by far the best one that we own. But we're going to show you these first two first, and I'm going to show you what the benefits and disadvantages are to both of these. Alright, so the first grain mill that we have is this one right here. This is just a very basic cast iron grain mill. There's nothing fancy about it at all, but it's something that we bought a long time ago, and I keep it around really for one specific reason. It really doesn't do a very good job for grinding flour. It doesn't get things very fine at all, but it does do pretty good at cracking corn. So the main reason I keep it around is in case the time comes when we need to be grinding our own animal feed, we'll have this here. We can put pretty much any kind of grains we want in here and grind them in a pretty coarse mix for the animals. So let's try this thing out. Like I said, it doesn't do real great at grinding things fine, but I'm going to try to grind as fine as I can in this so that you can see how it works. So we'll start with some corn, because this really does best with corn. Now the way that this one works is there's metal plates in here that just kind of rub up against each other, and the grain comes through and comes out the other end. The way that you adjust it is with this right here, and it basically just moves the two plates closer together or further apart depending on how tight you make this. Now when I bought it, it didn't have this piece of metal on the top here. I added that. You can see it's great craftsmanship there. But basically what that does is it stops the grain from flying all over the place, and it actually makes it go down. I would have thought they'd have something like that on there, but it didn't. So, alright, so I'm going to tighten this up pretty good here. Pretty tight. I think that's about as tight as it can probably go and still move. So we're going to put a little bit of corn in here and we'll see how fine it comes out. Here we go. Alright, that's pretty much all of it, and you can see here what came out, that it's pretty coarse. I mean, that is definitely not flour, but this would be good. Like I said, the main reason I haven't just given this back to a thrift store or sold it at a garage sale is because I figure it would be good for grinding up things for animal feed. So I do keep it around for that, but for anything else, it's pretty much not a good investment for your homestead. So that's about all this one is really good for. I'm not even going to run any wheat through it because I can tell you guys from experience, it doesn't do any better with wheat than it does with corn. It comes out really still pretty coarse. So like I said, this one for human consumption, I don't think is very good at all. So let's get this one out of here. I'll show you the next one that we have, which I also got at a garage sale. Alright, so the next one that we have is this one right here. And this one is called a Victorio, which is actually a pretty nice brand, and it's nicely made. It just looks a lot more, you know, professional than the first one that we had. And, you know, this one just mounts to your counter the same way. Now there is one major disadvantage to this one, and that is that this one cannot do corn. This one is only for really dry grains, nothing that's oily or anything like that. So it's really good for like wheat, barley, rice, the really dry grains that you can put through here. So don't even try to put corn through one like this. It's just for the dry grains. The other disadvantage to this one is it just doesn't hold a real lot at a time. So, you know, you're going to be here a while. It's going to take you quite a while to grind up the amount that you need to make bread or something like that. But let's give it a test. Now, the way that you adjust this one is actually kind of similar to the first one that I showed you. There's a little knob here at the back. And what they suggest is that basically to start with, you tighten that until it's snug. and then go back a quarter turn. And then it says to never make it more fine as you're grinding. So once you put something in, don't try to make it even finer as you're going. You can make it more coarse, but never make it finer. If you need to make it finer, you need to take all of the grains out, clean it, put it back together, and then start over. Okay, so let's give this one a try with some of our wheat. Now, another thing that I really don't like about this one is it's so low to the counter. You have to use a really small bowl to put under here, or you could use like a pie plate or something like that, but it just seems kind of weird that it's so close to the counter. All right, let's go ahead and put some of the wheat berries in. I'm not going to put too many because then I have to grind all of that. All right, here we go. So we're going to just start. And you can see it's doing a better job for sure than the first one. It definitely comes out nice and fine. Let me take this off so you guys can see down inside of there. You can see it doesn't move very fast. But it is doing a much better job than the first one we had. Well, let me get this all ground up and then we'll evaluate it and see what it compares to in comparison to actual flour. Alright, so I'm done with that. I would say it took me about, I don't know, 5 or 7 minutes maybe to grind this little bowl of flour, and I wasn't going super fast, so you know, really it doesn't take terribly long, but it is still a fair amount of work. So now let's look at the results. Compared to what we could have done in the other grinder, you know, the just real basic grinder, this does a much better job. This is definitely what I would consider flour. This is ground, I would say about equal to like whole wheat flour that you buy in the store. Now keep in mind that we have soft white wheat berries here. So it's going to be, first of all, a whiter colored whole wheat flour, and it's not going to be as dense or coarse as like the red wheat flour that you buy typically in the store. So that's why it looks more white. This is good for making things like pasta and things like that, where the red wheat flour is higher in gluten, so it's better for making breads. But the one thing that I do like about this little grinder is that you can also run other things through it like rice, which I know these days a lot of people are going gluten-free, which we're not, but we do like to experiment with some alternative flours. So let me actually grab some rice, and we'll try running some rice through here and see how it does to make rice flour. Okay, so I've got some rice. Now just for fun, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to measure how much we put in versus how much flour we get out. So I'm putting in a half a cup of brown rice. This is brown basmati rice. And we're going to keep it on the same setting that I just did the wheat on, and we'll just see how this does for rice. Alright, so I'm all done with the rice. Now, I'm impressed. I think it did just as good of a job as it did on the flour. In fact, maybe even a little finer than the flour. The best part about having a grain mill like this is you can cancel your gym membership, because as long as you switch arms once in a while, you get a pretty darn good workout. Alright, so let's test and see how much of this we actually got. Now remember, we started with a half of a cup of rice. Let's see how much flour that actually gave us. Well, just, I'd say 3/4 of a cup. So that's a pretty good increase. That's good to know that at least you get more than what you put in. Makes your hard work a little less daunting, I guess. So that's awesome. I might experiment with this later on and try some different recipes with it. I'll let you guys know if I come up with something good. So we do have one final grain mill, and like I said, it's the one that we use most of the time here on the homestead. I'll actually let Sarah show you that one. Let me get my stuff cleared out of your way.
This is our third grain mill, and the one that we use most often because it is electric. You can do quite a lot at one time, and it goes really fast, and there's no workout at all. That's why I don't have big muscles like Kevin, because I use the electric grain mill all the time. So there are two main grains that we grind up in here. The first is wheat or wheat berries. The second is corn. So I'm going to grind up some of that for you today, show you how this works. Now this particular mill is called a Wonder Mill. There are several different kinds of electric grain mills on the market, and they're all good. And like the other two that we talked with you about, this one is not without some hiccups. Also, we've had some problems with grain getting stuck down kind of in the, not the motor, but kind of in the grinding parts, and it hasn't worked 100% all the time. So while we prefer to use this electric one, we've had some hiccups with this as well. So the nice thing about this grain mill is it has 3 settings. It has a coarse setting, a bread setting, and a pastry setting. So depending on what you're going to be grinding and what you're going to be using the flour for, you can adjust that, and it does work really well. So the first thing I'm going to grind for you today is just a little bit of wheat flour. Now on this grain mill, you dump the seeds into this hopper here. It goes through the motor, and it gets shot out through here into this holding bin. And then when you're done, you pop this off, open up the lid, and what you've just ground up is inside here. So let's do that. One thing I've done a couple times, which you need to be careful about, is I forgot to connect these two and turn it on, and there was a big poof of flour all over the place. So try not to do that. Makes a huge mess. Okay, so let's try some wheat in here. I'm just going to try half of a cup so you can see what it looks like, what it sounds like, how it works. This is very loud. I'm going to grind the wheat on the bread setting. That seems to be a good all-purpose setting for me. So I'm going to turn it on. It kind of sounds like a spaceship. So that didn't take long at all. It took about 30 seconds. One thing with these grain mills is that you absolutely don't want to turn it off when it's actively grinding the grains. It can get stuck in there and really cause complications. So now that we're all done, we can detach this, take a look inside, and see how it worked. Now, a half of a cup of grain turned into a bunch inside of there. That is way more than the 3/4 of a cup that Kevin got from hand grinding. So that's pretty awesome. Now that probably is because this does a better job, grinds it finer, and because it's shooting it out of there, I think it adds a lot of air, fluffs it up. So let me measure it, but the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass a spatula through it just to get some of that air out of there. If you are going to use this in a recipe right away, you'll want to do what I'm doing. You can just see I'm just stirring it around to get some of the air out of that, so that when we measure it, it's actually a true measurement. So let's see how much we actually got out of half of a cup of the wheat berries. You know, Kevin ground the rice, and maybe it has something to do with the differences in the type of grain as well. I'm not sure. Okay, good enough. Let's see what it does. See what it gave us. Just about a cup. So there was a little bit of difference there. Now we're just gonna clean this up and get ready to grind something else up. I think we're gonna start with some corn. Okay, I'm gonna grind some corn next. I grind corn on the bread setting because I like the consistency of that when I make cornbread. It comes out kind of like corn flour rather than cornmeal. The coarse setting, if you wanted cornmeal, you would use that setting. It's a lot more coarse. Now Now Kevin talked with you about the difference between the two grain mills that he showed you, and the second one could only do really smaller grains. The nice thing about this Wonder Mill and other electric grain mills like it is it can do a larger variety of grains. Now they can't be oily grains, it can't be nuts or seeds like sunflower seeds, but you can do things as big as corn, garbanzo beans, you can do lentils, split peas, even pinto beans. So it's really pretty versatile, and I really like that about these bigger electric grain mills. Okay, so let's go ahead and grind up some corn. Again, it's gonna be loud, and even grinding up the corn itself is louder. Okay, let's see what that looks like. This is actually my most favorite reason to use this grain mill is for this corn flour. I didn't do a whole lot, but you can see what it looks like in there. Nice and thin, perfect for some cornbread. I actually love this. You know, one thing I wanted to talk with you about is, you know, these days there are so many alternative flours. Lots of people are going gluten-free for one reason or another, but the alternative flours are so expensive. You can easily get those grains, whole grains, from places like Azure Standard, bring them home and grind them like this for just a fraction of the price. So if you are going that direction and want to do more gluten-free baking, but know how expensive those flours are, you may want to consider buying a grain mill like this that will do those alternative grains.
So there you go. Those are the 3 types of grain mills that we own here on our homestead. We get a lot of questions about that. Now again, we didn't do this video to endorse any certain brand or type of grain mill. We just wanted to show you some of the options that are out there and get your minds thinking about some of the cost savings that you can have by owning a grain mill and then ordering a lot of those things in bulk.
Also to get you thinking about the potentials for alternate types of flours that are out there and that you can do at home, and really the food security and the shelf life that these have as opposed to ground flours.
Yeah, one of the things that the kids have really enjoyed in the past is grinding our own wheat for cream of wheat. You know, when you're grinding wheat, it's not just for flour. Homemade cream of wheat with freshly ground wheat is so good on a cold morning. So, you know, start thinking about things that you can buy in bulk, store on your homestead, and have that security.
So you guys, we hope that you enjoyed spending some time with us today learning about some of the bulk foods that we buy and the grain mills that we have here on the homestead. If you're enjoying our channel, please hit the subscribe button below and make sure that you're sharing our videos with everyone you know on your social media. And until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.